You know Tom Homan, you see Tom Homan on your show, but you see,
Mr. President,
we have so much to look at and listen to from this off-the-rails Trump town hall with Harris Faulkner, coined as a women town hall. Trump answering the questions that women are concerned about, as this was branded. And you could see there in the first clip, Harris Faulkner so desperately was trying to. The reason we led with that is to give you a sense of the vibe, and then I'll show you the more substantive points I want to make about the clips. But Faulkner desperately wanted to help Trump by stopping him at certain moments. Please, okay, no, don't. You come off so wacky when you incoherently ramble for so long. And at certain points, Trump would, you saw, reach over, lunge over and say, no, I'm going to keep talking. And he would keep talking, and he would shoot himself in the foot time and time again. So with that being said, let's jump into this first clip where he's asked about his threats against the quote unquote enemy from within, his political opponents. And he gets played a clip, and you'll see his response. While you're watching, please click the subscribe button, like the video, all those good things. But subscribe is the one we're trying to charge forward with to 1 million subscribers. Then I'll stop bothering you so much about it. Here we go.
they're using your words to say that you are not for crime and keeping particularly women safe in ads. I want to take a look at what you said and just tell me, let's watch it.
if we have to.
Yeah.
We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries, because if you have a smart president, he can handle them pretty easily. But the thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics that we have inside, like Adam Schiff. I call him the enemy from within.
Mr. President, Kamala Harris has said you sounded unhinged and unchecked.
And by the way, he also said the military may have to deal with the enemy from within.
Power is in our future. What do you say about that?
I thought it was a nice presentation. I wasn't unhinged. No, you know what they are? They're a party of sound bites. Somebody asked me, can they be brought together? You know, it was I never thought, really, I wasn't thinking like they could, because they're very, very different. And it is the enemy from within, and they're very dangerous. They're Marxists and communists and fascists. And
then he does his normal rant on that, talks about Adam Schiff, Nancy Pelosi, justifies his threat, doesn't try to explain away what he said. Now, we get another one of those moments where he's asked a very specific question and is incapable, fundamentally incapable of answering the dang question.
Kind of realistic changes that, do you think you can provide single parents, married parents, any kind of parent to just simply afford children in today's world with the way things are?
Right? It is not fair.
No.
You never heard of Ivanka, right? Ivanka. My daughter drove me crazy on this. We had the simplest, most beautiful I gave you the largest tax cuts in the history of our country, okay? Larger than the Reagan cuts, larger. But my daughter, Ivanka, she said, Dad, we have to do tax credits for women, for the child tax credits. She was driving me crazy. Then I did it, and I got it just about done. Dad, you've got to double it up. I said, Ivanka, it was actually more complicated than the entire bill, but I got it done. And what we're going to do, and I'm going to make, because I understand exactly what you're saying, we're going to readjust things so that it's fair to everybody, because it's really not fair to everybody.
Well, that's nice. We're going to readjust so it's fair to everybody. Are you endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris's specific $6,000 child tax credit in the first year of a child's life? Are you saying enhance it further or enhance it a little bit less? What is the proposal? Something that MAGA gets on to Kamala Harris for is being repetitive in her responses to questions. So if she gets asked about how she's going to uplift a certain community, she might go back to, well, here's what I'm going to do for small businesses, which impacts that community as well as Americans at large. If she gets asked about family, she goes back $6,000 first year, and that bothers them because they think it's repetitive. But that's because she's trying to, on one platform in front of one audience and another, get out what her promises and her proposals are. So she just goes through it in very similar language each time. Trump also is very repetitive, but does so because it's as if he can't think of a way to be more detailed and coherent. So he gets asked a question, he just talks about how his daughter Ivanka really cared about this issue, but never explains what then that informs him to do in a second term, except for we're going to adjust. And right after that clip, that one cut off, but we were watching it live, and he said something effective, and we're going to go up but adjust, different and fair. It's just like, what? So are you increasing it or not? Because it was Republicans, and it continues to be Republicans, who block the enhanced child tax credit. Then he acknowledges that there's bad apple police officers within the context of a conversation of him saying he wants to give full criminal immunity to officers so they couldn't be held legally accountable if they did break the law in their line of work, as everyone should be in any line of work. But then watch as we see with so many things, because he doesn't actually believe or know anything about what he's talking about, how quickly he backs off of that.
We'll see. And we're going to have law and order. We're going to we have to reinvigorate our police. We have great police. They're not allowed to do their job. If they do their job with gusto, which is what we want them to be fair. And the sad thing is you'll always have a bad apple. And, hundreds and hundreds of arrests, one bad arrest, and it's on the front page of every newspaper. And these people are incredible. They want to do their job, just like the Border Patrol. They want to do their job. We're going to let them do their job. And I'm going to give them immunity. We're going to protect them because they do things and they end up getting sued. They lose their family. They lose their house.
Can I ask you
they
about
lose.
the immunity?
They lose their pension. They lose everything. We'll see.
Yes, they already have civil suit protections. But then here, watch.
The bad apples, does that not incentivize anyone if you give everyone immunity to go after those people on forces that you need to deal with? So how do you balance
People know the bad apples, though. They do. 99% they're just hard. They want to stop crime. You're going to have a bad police officer. And I've seen it where you have a couple of very famous
So immunity
cases.
doesn't keep you from dealing with that?
No, because they're going to be some people you're going to say, we're not giving you immunity. What are you, crazy? Look what happened. Look what you've done. You've been terrible.
Right. Don't say right, Harris Faulkner. Again, she's jumping in there. Some of these we were watching live, and I wish you could see some of the in-between outside of these clips where she's trying to, and he's going, no, but you saw a little bit of the meeting. But that's not how policy works. No, you'll say, you don't get an immunity. Never mind. You're bad. You're a bad apple. Bad apple. That means you don't get immunity. How do you write that into a policy? Immunity, criminal immunity, because there's already qualified immunity, but the type of across the board given by the federal government immunity on criminal prosecution, which is how he's explained it before, that means definitionally people who do the bad apple sort of things get the protection and can't be held accountable. Otherwise, what does that even mean? People get immunity when they don't do things that are illegal? Okay, obviously. That's called due process. You're supposed to weed that out during the process of litigating something. But Trump can't answer for what he's proposing, so he has to say, no. In the cases that really upset people, we won't worry about immunity on those. No, your proposal is complete and total immunity. Our proposal is invest properly in law enforcement, 100%. Make sure people are properly trained. Support police in that way. And also hold them accountable like we do in any other profession when they engage in wrongdoing. How is that complicated? But Trump thinks we need one bad day, one really bad day or bad hour, rough, where everyone has immunity, the purge, to sort things out. Even though, if you're looking to lower crime, look at least to the correlation between Biden-Harris being in office and crime plummeting. Maybe there's something there than this.
We have it. Some countries could never make that pledge.
Is that, real quickly,
it's going to bring everything down with it.
We're going to take a quick break here. I just want to make the transition to this. You've talked about electric vehicles. what you're setting up is a point where we can do fossil fuel and survive for a little while before we have to make that next gap? I mean, that next jump?
Well,
like, what, is this a transition point?
The problem with electric vehicles, and Elon Musk is a very good friend of mine. He endorsed me like...
And then you just start talking about Elon Musk again.
And you saw him the other night in Butler, Pennsylvania. Was he having a good time?
All these clips are cutting. Right after that, Harris Faulkner goes, and we're going to take a break. She's trying her best. She's really trying to help him out by stopping him as often as possible. Before going further, he said, if you have to make that transition, are there still people in doubt that we're ever going to need to switch over to renewable energy? Oh, there are. I'm getting word that there are. Well, that's wacky. It's one thing to debate over solutions. It's a whole nother to debate with someone as to if there's even a problem there that needs a solution. That gets crazy. And Harris Faulkner goes, oh, I see. So your position, because they always try to moderate Trump's position for him, hoping he'll go, sure. And then he slaps it down. Your position is we're going to be dominant in fossil fuels as we transition, and then we'll smoothly transition instead of cutting off fossil fuels completely and switching over to renewable energy. Throw some nuclear in there, and we'll smoothly transition to a green energy future, ultimately 100% green energy, but doing so in a way that isn't a huge economic burden for people. If we do this right, we can take advantage of the fact that it's true renewable energy is cheaper for consumers than fossil fuels. And we can do so without becoming really dependent on other countries. Oh, that's incredible. And Trump goes, nah, I don't know if we'll ever need to switch over. So what Harris Faulkner tried to get Trump to agree to was the mainstream Democratic Party position on this issue. We're currently energy dominant. We're currently producing more oil than any country in the history of humanity. And we're doing so while making historic investments in renewable energy to facilitate a transition without it being economically painful for consumers. Harris, you might be in the wrong party. Then on transgender athletes.
How do you stop it? Do you go to the sports leagues? Do you go to the Olympic
You just ban
councils?
it. The president bans it. You just don't let it happen.
His answer on everything, right? Harris tries to push for, that's going to get confusing if I call her Harris because of Kamala Harris. Faulkner tries to push for specifics, and Trump doesn't give them. Then finally, after 50 minutes of this going on, this women town hall, which, by the way, the women in the room were hardcore Trumpers. Maybe except for this one, I don't know. But when Trump came in, they were just losing their minds, so happy that he was there, love him. Every time he says something, they laugh super hard. Is this really the town hall that you're thinking that it is? Fox News. And for an hour to go by nearly, and then you leave a little sliver of time, one question after there were all these minutes spent on immigration, one question about reproductive rights, when among women that polls as a top issue. A little dishonest, but here was the question.
Facing the question of abortion, women are entitled to do what they want to and need to do with their bodies, right, including their unborn. That's on them regardless of the circumstance. Some are necessary to save their own lives. Why is the government involved in women's basic rights?
Right, good. I think it's great, and I'm glad you asked it. For 52...
You think what's great? What do you think is great?
Basic rights.
Right, good. I think it's great, and I'm glad you asked it. For 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart. Every legal scholar, the great ones, every lawyer, but the Democrats, the Republicans, the liberals, the conservatives, they wanted it brought out of the federal government and brought back to the states for a vote of the people. And like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, life.
All right, so he does the thing we've heard a million times. Everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted it. Everyone wanted it overturned. Everyone wanted it overturned. Everyone wanted it overturned. Everyone. No matter how many times you say it, Trump, it doesn't become any more true. Support for Roe v. Wade was at an all-time high right before it got overturned. And then it got even higher, people wanting it to come back. Every legal expert, every scholar, and then he goes, the good one, what did he say? He said some, the renowned ones. He's just saying the people he agrees with. And somehow he wants us to believe, and it's so gaslighty. He wants us to believe that despite this now tearing our country apart, it only used to. Until Roe v. Wade. Because do you remember that? Do you remember how unpleasant the issue was before and how pleasant it is now? Weird. I remember the opposite. I remember most people being at peace with the decision, then a really active pro-life movement, or I should properly articulate it as an anti-reproductive freedom movement, aggressively and successfully getting the Supreme Court to be such that it could overturn it. And then it being more of a fiery and controversial and painful and disastrous issue than it had been in a very long time, as shown by this becoming people's top issue, a larger percentage of Americans putting this as their top issue than we've seen in a very long time. No, you didn't solve it. And then he just does his normal thing. And then he moves on to IVF and says he's the father of IVF. I don't even want to play that for you. Let's see if I can actually, I probably should, refresh this. It's like he's attempting, and this is the whole MAGA thing, by the way. Let me see if I can get this clip for you all. It's really giving me troubles. One of the things I do want to note is that they're just Republican operatives in the room too, like someone who's an RNC delegate and stuff to that effect. But I will eventually get to this. I'm the father of IVF, he says.
Or
Right,
IVF.
let's get this question because I believe that's what this is about.
Oh, I want to talk about IVF. I'm the father.
You don't hear that every day.
I'm the father of IVF, so I want to hear this question.
And then he goes on to do his thing of, IVF is fertilization. And Katie Britt, she called me and she said, I'm being attacked. And I said, I'm going to fix this for you. But first, explain to me what IVF is. That's what he says. I do not know what that was before. And then I said, fertilization. I like fertilizing things. So let's do that. Woohoo. I'm the father of IVF. No, it was only threatened because of your justices that you got onto the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. So you don't get to take credit for saving people from you. And this whole town hall and this whole campaign from Trump is trying to get people to live in a world in their head, a head version, a fabricated version of the world where everything's going to hell, where we're a nation in decline, where everything's terrible. You're not safe. You're going to have your throat slit, he said. And where he saved IVF, and where everyone's happy that Roe v. Wade was overturned. And if you live in that world, maybe it makes sense to vote for this guy. In a world where elections are rigged against him, where his criminal cases are rigged against him, where all of the media is rigged against him, where his sexual abuse trial is rigged against him, maybe it makes sense. But guess what? You're voting on Earth 1. Not wherever you are. Come back to Earth, MAGA. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I don't know why I whispered that. That was such a Biden. It goes in the economy. Sort of moment. Let me know in the comments. Support the show. Get the bonus show by clicking the join button.